Photographers of Reddit, what is the most outrageous photo shoot request you have received from an Instagram influencer? It's M. Careful everyone, today's video might not scare you, but it will definitely piss you off. That being said, join me as we cringe at some incredulous influencers. Story 1. Not a photographer personally, but a few of my close friends are. My friend we'll call Sarah is a pretty successful photographer for only being a college student. About a month ago, Sarah and I were meeting up for lunch at our university's food court, and she's fiddling with her cameras, preparing them for a big shoot she has that night, when this very attractive girl walks over and starts chatting with us. She makes a few minutes of casual conversation, mostly inquiring about Sarah's cameras, and then finally asks if she'd be interested in doing a shoot. She immediately throws her pitch, which had to do with modeling some very risky outfits up in the mountains, just outside of the city, and then a few photos directly in the center of downtown. Overall, the whole pitch was something that bordered very close to being pornographic in nature. Sarah tells the girl her typical rates, and also states that because of the nature of the shoot, she'll have to charge extra as it's not something she typically does or is super comfortable with. The girl's face when Sarah mentioned the price went from enthusiastic to very, "Are you kidding me?" She then bursts in and says, "I have over 85K Instagram followers. Do you know the kind of exposure working with me would give you? This is a once-in-a-lifetime chance for you." Sarah responds telling her that she's an in-house photographer for 3 of the city's largest concert venues, works as a photographer for the newspaper, and is a highly recommended wedding photographer on top of it all. "I don't work for free." My favorite line she said during this was, "I work with people much more famous than you on an almost daily basis. I've shot photos for Marilyn Manson, Motley Crue, Shania Twain, Post Malone, and a bunch of other musicians that came through, and we're paid for all of it. Your exposure isn't worth anything to me." After that, the girl got really upset and walked off. This honestly is one of my favorite prompts we have ever done for this channel because I love talking about crappy influencers. If you can't tell by my voice, without giving too much away, I was a teenager when social media really took off. So I've seen the rise of the so-called influencers and just their blatant ignorant pride. So when she expected this pretty professional and successful photographer to work for free, it's honestly not shocking. If you like these kinds of stories, I would recommend the Choosing Beggar subreddit, as it has a lot of these. Side note, 85K is a very impressive number, but in the grand scheme of Post Malone types followings, it's nothing. Story 2. Professional here. This isn't really outrageous in terms of what they wanted to do in a photo, but I would say 90% of influencers who contact me try to use tagging as their form of payment. "Well, I have 100K followers, so you're guaranteed to get so much work from this. You'd be an idiot to say no." This is word for word what one woman said to me when I politely informed her of my rates. Paying artists an exposure is nothing new, but the levels of entitlement I'm seeing these days is off the charts. The only thing I can ever guarantee from these interactions is that they will throw a massive tantrum when I say no, complete with some classic r/nice girl lines like, "Your crap isn't even that good. I was trying to do you a favor," etc. One person contacted me saying that she gets paid X amount from companies per post. Thus, every post she makes using my photograph should count for X amount of dollars paid to me. Because, like so many people will see it, you'll pretty much be famous. Yes, I do my best to explain how the process actually works, that exposure isn't a form of payment, etc. This has varying degrees of success, but a lot of the time they end up paying my rates anyway, and say something like, "Never know if you don't ask, right? Lol." Somebody commented, "I can't even follow that logic. She's gonna be making X dollars from your photos, so you should be happy not being paid?" I'm guessing you said no. I could maybe understand if the person was taking the photos for a brand deal and they tell you they make, let's say, $5,000 from the brand deal. They'll split half of the profits with the photographer. Then that I could understand compared to an hourly or per picture rate. But to just say, "Oh, I get paid this much because of the exposure," is just so dumb. Story 3. I have a long gray or white beard, which naturally prompts a lot of jokes about looking like Santa Claus. We spent Christmas in Punta Cana this year, and I have this old Hawaiian shirt with reindeer and Christmas on them. So in the afternoon of Christmas Day, I went walking down the beach in my Christmas shirt, and I was instantly surrounded by all these girls in bikinis wanting to take a selfie with Santa Claus. I was game. Seemed like it was all in good fun, and if a bunch of giggling girls want to sit on my lap and take a picture, who am I to complain? But it got obnoxious really quickly. Each of them wanted wanted 20 shots from different angles, in different poses, with different backgrounds and different light angles. I couldn't figure out what was going on until one of them mentioned how popular this was going to be on Instagram, that she found out what Santa does to rest after Christmas Eve. After that, it was just kind of irritating, so I refused to do any more photos unless a child asked, which just pissed the Instagram crowd off, which naturally made it even more irritating. I ended up avoiding the beach and pool area for the rest of the week. Somebody commented, "I feel like at first I'd get a kick out of pissing off Instagram influencers, but I suppose after a while I just want to enjoy the damn beach." Okay, look, I get that this probably got really annoying for OP, but his first comment about not complaining about the girl sitting on his lap was a little weird to me. Regardless, the dude should have just charged them if they were going to make it like a whole photo shoot out of it. Make the bag, Holiday Santa. Story 4. A few years back, I was in Acadia National Park, and we did the Beehive Trail hike. For those unfamiliar, it's basically as close to rock climbing as you can get non-harnessed, as you are going straight up a cliff on iron rungs and stuff. So super fun, and you're rewarded with an amazing view at the top. Most people take a quick snap there at the tip, as most do at the peak of their hike, and then move on to the more rocky area, but less a nice view to the rest. Anyway, while we were resting, 2 Instagram girls got to the top and promptly took over the best view of the lip to take various yoga poses, because that was totally a natural thing to do after scrambling up a cliff. For at least 10 minutes, families were coming up asking if they could take a picture, but they literally said, "We were here first," and "We'll be here a while." When asked if they were almost done, we ended up leaving before they were done, but it still boils my blood thinking about it. Somebody commented, "I would just photobomb all their pictures until they left. I can't stand people like that." Story 5. Not a photographer, but I recently got back from the Dominican, and while there, a girl spent roughly 40 minutes sitting on a paddleboard and standing in the ocean, striking new poses for what I can only assume was her Instagram. The time invested in being artificially genuine is sickening. Somebody commented, "Instagram travelers are weird. I was in Kings Canyon National Park a couple years ago and stopped at a waterfall along the scenic road, grabbed my lunch and sat by the catch pool for a bit enjoying the scenery. While I was there, an Asian girl in a bikini walked up being trailed by 3 dudes, 2 of them with cameras. She goes straight to a rock sitting out of the pool in the shallows, and they spend 20 minutes taking pictures of her, doing different poses on the rock. The dude without a camera, I assume her boyfriend, joined her for some of them. Then they left. Despite her swimsuit, she didn't get in the water any longer than it took to step to the rock. She never even turned to face the waterfall. They were only there for pictures. I completely understand having to do what you need to do to get money and support yourself. That being said, I do think we fostered this online culture of making everything look organic, but spend so much time to falsely create that moment. Even Be Real, which if you don't know, is an app that only allows people to submit a photo within like 2 minutes of getting the notification, and their whole message was to try to get back to just capturing the mundane parts of life. Well, now people will even fake that stuff by trying to make their life look more interesting. Story 6. I do documentary film, and I have a non-film job in college, and I met this lady who was maybe 30 who asked me to do an Instagram video like this, and she showed me a professional video shoot done with a green screen, lights, and set. I told her I could probably get pretty close to quality with my university's equipment, but it would take time to get a crew together and reserve a studio. She told me no, that I should just record it with my phone. I told her that's not what they did for the Instagram video. She just showed me, and she said, "It's on Instagram. That means they recorded it with their phone." She dropped it after I mentioned I charged money and wouldn't just do it to be nice. She has like 10 followers, and 3 of them were bad bots. Story 7. I do photography on the side, since I'm mostly film and video. But I have a friend who has an Instagram account as a side business for fun. I told her I would do a photo shoot for her if she helped me with my resume and cover letter. Although she has tons of companies that give her products to review for free, the photo credit she gave me honestly didn't lead to any followers on my Instagram. So yeah, anyone who wants exposure for crazy work, I don't think, knows that they actually don't give any exposure. In my case, I was the one who brought up the deal, and honestly, I would have done it for free to get out of the house because she's my friend. But yeah, that photo credit doesn't do anything in my experience. This one I have no qualms with because it is obvious it was more of a trade of goods for some friends than anything else. But OP raises an amazing point. Maybe some brands might get some attention if they give people free sponsored items, but the photographer rarely benefits because so few people are truly interested in the quality of the photo or who took it. So to say your popularity will boom because of exposure really doesn't hold up. Story 8. Someone asked me to shoot her entire wedding, a full day, an engagement photo shoot underwater. I do underwater photography also, and some honeymoon shots somewhere, all for exposure. I straight up said no, politely, and she kicked off in a patronizing way, asking me if she knew who I was and what it would do for my career. She had about 10K less followers than I did, and I don't even do weddings, as I had pointed out, so it wasn't even in my best interest, even if she had millions of followers. Oh, and an influencer guy asked me to do a nude photo shoot for him for free. I declined but wished him luck. He then sent a bad picture. I reported him. Story 9. I was selling an old camera on eBay, maybe $50, and someone asked me to send it to him for free so he could review it on his YouTube channel. I'm not the manufacturer of this secondhand camera, just an art student trying to make some money. So I don't know how he thought reviewing my old camera was of any benefit to me. And then it turned out he had only 10 subscribers, so I really don't know what he thought he was doing. You have 10 subscribers, but start your email off with, "Hi, I'm name," better known as channel name. Somehow I've avoided this with my actual photography work, but I still laugh about eBay guy. Story 10. As a photo assistant in Chicago, I had a friend tell me there was a popular New York photographer looking for an assistant on Instagram for a shoot in Chicago. I inquired with the gentleman, and he said he only had a day rate of $150. On top of that, he said the day would be a 14-hour day, and he asked me to pick up his equipment rental, which included a 12-foot sweep, and store it at my place to be ready for the shoot the next day. Hell no. $150 for 17 hours worth of work? I don't care which photographer you pay your assistants correctly. Let me do some math real quick. 150 divided by 17. That's $8.83 an hour, which is lower than the minimum wage of Illinois, which is $13 an hour. I could understand maybe if the photographer was just starting out, but it really does seem like it's always the super rich people who try to scam people out of money. Story 11. Not a photographer, but one of my acquaintances is a semi-popular influencer. She spends way too much time to look authentic and down to earth. One time at a small party, I did something funny that made a bunch of people laugh. Whatever it was wasn't caught on camera, and she forced me to recreate the moment so that she could film it for her Instagram stories. You're not having fun unless you can prove it to your thousands of followers, apparently. Somebody commented, "Do that spontaneous thing again. Do it. Everyone needs to know how much fun we're having." Story 12. Work in a camera store and do photography myself, and hear stories about this sort of stuff all the time. Usually just ask model shoots for exposure, but I've heard and seen stories. There's a fairly popular one at the moment about a photographer in Chicago, about people asking for full wedding shoots for exposure. Not always influencers asking these questions either. Sometimes arsehole people ask this stuff and then say stuff like, "Well, if I had that equipment, then we'd be able to get the same results." They just don't have the respect for the time that goes into the art form. So I do understand the couple getting married to maybe ask for a small price reduction, because my brother is getting married next year, and let me tell you, it is so expensive, all because it's a wedding. That being said, he would never ask for free work, even from a friend. So I don't know where these people get off. Story 13. Influencers weren't what they are now, back when this happened, but there was this flamboyant musician client I had that wanted to generate a buzz. I was pretty early in my career, so it didn't sound crazy at the time, but he hired me to follow him around a local outdoor shopping mall pretending to be paparazzi. It was actually kind of fun shouting fake interview questions at him while he ignored me. Lots of people fell for it and followed us around. Looking back on it, it was the dumbest gig I've ever had. Story 14. I was in New York once and this girl, who should be in her 20s, approached me and told me to take her photo. I thought it would be some general request, but still, to stand up to my pride, I lowered the camera to gain an architectural perspective. But then when I looked at her, she was standing in the middle of the road, one arm on a car that she must have stopped because the traffic was ongoing, and the other holding a banner that said "Life." To this day, I had no idea what I just witnessed. Story 15. Been a wedding photographer for 12 years. I routinely get asked to do entire weddings for free, not even always from Instagram influencers. One time this guy, whom I didn't even like that much, asked me to do a wedding for free for his friend, someone I didn't even know existed at all until this interaction. I just imagine walking into a restaurant and asking for the absolute best meal they have for $0, and then telling them it will be good for their business to do so. Hey, OP, you would be surprised at how many people do this. business. They think taking a couple of pictures of food will qualify them to get a $1,000 check for free. I think the only person who could reasonably do that right now would be Keith Lee, who's a pretty popular Las Vegas TikToker. I say that because he goes around rating small mom and pop places, and if he gives them a good rating, their store is guaranteed packed the next day. So maybe he could get away with it even though he does always pay, but I don't know anyone else. Story 16. Not for an influencer, but my boyfriend's mom is a photographer and was sent 2 photos and asked to edit one of them. The first photo was a young man and his grandmother in front of some memorial. The second photo was the young man by himself a few years later in front of the same memorial. The family asked my mother-in-law to Photoshop photo 2 to have a ghostly-looking version of the grandmother next to the young man because she had since passed away. Very odd. Story 17. I have a friend who owns a popular bar. He is signed up discreetly, saying there's a $100 upcharge if you are an influencer and ask for comps. He literally charges people $100 if they ask him to comp the check because they will mention him. So far, he says he hasn't gotten a single chargeback from a credit card company when he's done it. I think he has only done it a few times with particularly obnoxious people. Story 18. I love ridiculous requests because I do surrealist neon stuff on my own time and really enjoy going for weird and unusual vibes. Probably the funniest was one girl who came to my house. I have a mini jungle to shoot with my plants, and we wrapped up in vines, wrapped her guitar, stacked up plants behind her, and generally made it look like she was being enveloped by plants. Fun results and really fun to shoot. At least the person in this story did actually want to pay, and these photos sound really cool. I wish I could see them. Story 19. Went out west hiking. We were packing to leave on a 17-mile hike that day in the hot sun. My friend stopped and said, "Wait, I forgot my flex gear for Insta." He ran back to the tent and jammed about half of his clothes into his hiking backpack for the trip. Fast forward to midday when he realized he'd taken the camera out of his bag to fit more clothes. Rip. Story 20. Had an influencer try to set up a shoot with me. When I mentioned my price, she was shocked because she was under the assumption that I was going to pay her for some reason. Somebody commented, "I work at a hotel and it's unbelievable how many of these dips want to stay for free in exchange for a post. Our marketing research shows that they have almost zero return on investment." Story 21. I usually don't work with the mentally challenged, but I was offered $200 for an all-day shoot for an up-and-coming whole influencer. I kindly declined because it wasn't worth my time, and she said, "Your loss. This could have been our moment to shine, sweetie," with a smirk that made me want to hit a woman for the first time since my sister was growing up. Well, mentally challenged is certainly one way to describe this breed of influencer, but honestly, it may not be fully wrong. Some people are genuinely so self-absorbed that they can't think of any reason anybody wouldn't think that they are the most amazing person and deserving of free everything. Story 22. I got asked if I had any duct tape because she wanted her boobs to push up into her dress. She then proceeded to strip completely down to just high heels and wanted me to go in the other room so she could take selfies with my remote control. I'm not leaving you alone with $10K worth of lenses. Story 23. Influencer asked me to shoot, and before I even had the chance to give her my prices, she decided to give me hers. Over $300 for me to shoot with her for 30 minutes. One of her main selling points was she could teach me how to leverage and grow my social media. Girl was 15. Story 24. Had someone asked me to do more than a week of videography for them and create a promo video for $200. Not a day, for the whole week. Someone commented, assuming 8 hours a day, 5 business days, that would come out to $5 an hour. Jesus Christ, that's less than minimum wage. The entitlement of some people. The only situation where I could maybe understand this is again, like someone who is just starting out and needs work for their portfolio. Or maybe even like a teen trying to get something to submit for colleges and needs a reference to. That being said, the week of recording doesn't even include the hours spent combing through footage and then editing everything together. Story 25. Beet poop. Some influencer that was promoting betaine and beets as a healthy diet. She wants me to take images of the colored change poop, that this is actually normal in those that can't process the betaine. That week my DSLR was dropped hard and now I'm without it. It was a bad week. Story 26. I paid my photographer for my album cover with cinnamon buns. He insisted that was the payment he wanted. So I've invented a new currency. Did it with the photo editor too, although it was a mix of money and cinnamon buns. Okay, look, unironically, I pay for many goods with baked sweets or homemade dinners. I've used it for homework help, certain relaxation products, old furniture, and just other random stuff. It's so funny when you think of just a bunch of people basically going back to the barter system in 2023. Story 27. She asked for $200 an hour with a 3-hour minimum, without any real prior modeling experience, and had conditions that the photos could not be posted anywhere, and that she was gonna have to have them sold exclusively on her Patreon. Story 28. I had a client ask me to Photoshop his head onto another guy's body because he liked the shirt the other guy was wearing more than his own. I actually did it because it was hilarious, and he paid me for it. Please leave your story in the comments. I would love to make a video on them in the future. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe.